Good morning, second graders. This is our story this week. It's lesson 26. It's called The Mysterious Tadpole. This is our anchor text that we'll be reading and answering the essential question to. And then tomorrow we'll be listening to From Eggs to Frogs and comparing the two texts together. So here's our vocabulary that we will find in our story today. Our first word is ordinary. An ostrich is not an ordinary bird. It runs quickly but cannot fly. Control. This rider uses reins to stay in control of the camel. Cage. If you own an iguana, you can let it out of its cage. Upset. This animal is upset because it sees danger. Sensible. These sensible hippos are smart enough to roll in cool mud on a hot day. Confused. Jack was confused. He had never seen an animal like this before. Training. The training of a ferret takes time and patience. Suspiciously. The wolf looked at the woman suspiciously. It does not trust her. Okay, so those are our 8 vocabulary words that we will see in our text today. Also, we want to remember what an adjective is. Remember, an adjective is something that describes an object. If you remember back in the beginning of the year, we made those spider adjectives and we hung them from the ceiling. So remember, we wrote words on the spider legs to describe a spider. So when we're reading today, I want you to think about any adjectives that you might hear in our story. Okay, some background of our story. We have another little blurb here that talks about life cycles. All living things change as they grow. When most living things are born, they are different than when they are grown. Think about how people change. A baby looks and acts differently than a child. A child looks and acts differently than an adult. The changes that happen as a living thing grows are called its life cycle. You will read about how Lewis's pet grows in The Mysterious Tadpole. So that relates to our story last week, too, about plants and the plant life cycle. So it sounds like this week we'll be learning about an animal life cycle. Okay, our author this week is Stephen Kellogg. Here's a picture about him and then some information. More than 25 years ago, Stephen Kellogg first wrote and illustrated The Mysterious Tadpole. So remember, that means that he wrote the words and drew the pictures. Then, for the book's big anniversary, he published a new version with different illustrations and words. The new version is the one you are about to read. So if you like this story, maybe you can YouTube and try to find the older version and then compare the two texts together. The genre this week is a fantasy. So a fantasy is a story that could not happen in real life. Okay, the events can't really happen and the stories are often not found in real life. So I wonder what it's going to be about. Last week I forgot to do a picture walk, so I'm going to kind of flip through the pages right now. Remember, they're illustrations, they're not photographs, so we're looking at the pictures. We're making some inferences, some guesses on what we think might take place in our story. Now, I know they just talked about life cycles, so it looks like this animal is growing bigger and bigger. Wow, really big there. Okay, let's keep looking through the story here. Wow, okay. The animal looks like he's in the swimming pool, maybe during school, gym class. Oh, it looks like a bird is emerging from this egg. Maybe that's a baby and the life cycle is starting all over again. Okay, I want you to think about the pictures you just saw. And if you can, turn and tell someone in your family what you think the story is going to be about. I know we always used to turn and talk on the carpet. But if you don't have anyone that you can tell right now because everyone's busy, then just think about, I think the story is going to be about this. It kind of looks like a toad to me, changing, growing larger, and getting into trouble with his classmates. Let me just flip back to the beginning of the story. I'm sorry, this is a longer story this week. Okay, The Mysterious Tadpole, written and illustrated by Stephen Kellogg. There's your essential question. You'll see that in the assignments. How do some animals change as they grow? So when you're done reading this and listening to this, then you can go and answer that in Google Classroom. Remember, you can be listening to the story, but you should also be following along and looking at the words as I am reading it. "Greetings, nephew," cried Lewis's uncle McAllister. "I've brought a wee bit of Scotland for your birthday." "Thanks," said Lewis. "Look, Mom and Dad, it's a tadpole." Lewis named him Alphonse and promised to take very good care of him. Lewis took Alphonse to school for show and tell. "Class, here we have a splendid example of a tadpole," exclaimed Miss Shelbert. "Let's ask Lewis to bring it back every week so we can watch it become a frog." Miss Shelbert was amazed to see how quickly Alphonse grew. "Maybe it's because he only eats cheeseburgers," said Lewis. When Alphonse became too big for his jar, Lewis moved him to the kitchen sink. "He's the perfect pet," said Lewis. Lewis and Alphonse loved to play games. "Be careful, Lewis," said his mother. "The living room is not a soccer field. Something is going to get broken." And she was right. That same day, the soccer ball slammed into Aunt Tabitha's antique lamp. "The tadpole is out of control," said Lewis's mom. "Something must be done." "It won't happen again," promised Lewis. "I'll take Alphonse to obedience school." The only animal at the obedience school were dogs. Some of their owners stared at Alphonse suspiciously. "Pretend you're a dog," whispered Lewis. Alphonse tried to bark, but it sounded like a burp. "Hold on a minute," said the trainer. "What kind of dog is this?" "He's a hairless spotted water spaniel from Scotland," explained Lewis. Alphonse quickly learned to sit, stay, and retrieve. He graduated at the top of his class. "My parents will be very pleased," said Lewis. But Lewis's parents were not pleased when Alphonse outgrew the sink and had to be moved to the bathtub. "This shower is too crowded," complained Lewis's father. "This bathroom is a mess," moaned Lewis's mother. At least Lewis's classmates enjoyed Alphonse, who was still making weekly visits. "Wow, show and tell is more fun than recess," they yelled. But one day, Miss Shelbert decided that Alphonse was not turning into an ordinary frog. She asked Lewis to stop bringing him to school. By the time summer vacation arrived, Alphonse had outgrown the bathtub. "We could buy the parking lot next door and build him a swimming pool," suggested Lewis. "Be sensible," declared Lewis's parents. "Swimming pools are expensive." "We're sorry, Lewis, but this situation has become impossible. Tomorrow you will have to take your tadpole to the zoo." "But I can't put my friend in a cage," cried Lewis. That night, Lewis was very sad. until he remembered that the gym in the nearby high school had a swimming pool. Louis hid Alphonse under a carpet and smuggled him inside. "Nobody uses this place during the summer," whispered Louis. "You'll be safe here." After making sure that Alphonse felt at home, Louis said goodbye. "I'll be back tomorrow with a big pile of cheeseburgers," he promised. Louis came every afternoon to play with Alphonse. In the mornings, he earned the money for the cheeseburgers by delivering newspapers. The training continued as well. Louis would say, "Alphonse, retrieve," and Alphonse would succeed every time. As summer vacation passed, Louis became more and more worried about what would happen to Alphonse when the high school kids returned. After his first day of classes, Louis ran to the high school and found the gym bustling with activity. The swim team was heading to the pool. "Stop!" cried Louis. "On your mark," bellowed the coach. "Get set." "Excuse me, sir," said Louis. "Go!" roared the coach. Alphonse rose to the surface to welcome the swimmers. "It's a submarine from another planet," shrieked the coach. "Call the police! Call the Navy!" "No, it's only a tadpole," said Louis. "He's my pet." The coach was upset and confused. "You have until tomorrow," he cried, "to get that creature out of the pool." Louis telephoned his friend, Miss Severs, the librarian, and asked for her help. "I'll be right there," she said. Miss Severs rushed to meet Louis at the high school. When she saw Alphonse, she was so startled that she dropped her purse into the water. "Retrieve," said Louis, and Alphonse did. "Where did this outstanding animal come from?" cried Miss Severs. "He was a birthday gift from my uncle," Louis replied. Miss Severs telephoned Uncle McAllister. "Oh, the wee tadpole," he said. "Why, he came from the lake nearby. It's the one folks call Loch Ness." "Brace yourself, Louis," Miss Severs said. "I believe your uncle found the Loch Ness Monster." "I don't care," cried Louis. "Alphonse is my friend, and I love him." He pleaded with Miss Severs to help him raise enough money to buy the parking lot so he could build a big swimming pool for Alphonse. Suddenly, Miss Severs had an idea. "Long ago, a pirate ship sank in the harbor," she said. "No one has ever been able to find it, or its treasure chest, but perhaps we can." The next morning, they drove to the harbor and rented a boat. "This is a treasure chest," cried Louis. "Retrieve!" Alphonse disappeared under the water and returned with the chest. It was filled with gold and jewels. "Let's buy the parking lot and get to work," cried Miss Severs. Louis's parents were shocked to see a construction crew in the parking lot. "Louis," they cried, "what in the world is going on here?" "Alphonse found a pirate treasure ship," explained Louis, "and we used part of our gold to buy you this present." Louis's parents were shocked once again. "Tickets for a vacation cruise to Hawaii?" they gasped. "And," said Louis, "you don't have to worry about us, because Granny has agreed to babysit." They hugged Louis. They kissed Alphonse. "How soon can we leave?" they cried. "Immediately," said Louis. By the time Louis's parents returned, the swimming pool was being enjoyed by everyone in the city. A week later, Louis said, "Alphonse, tomorrow is my birthday, which means that you've been my best friend for a whole year." The next day, Uncle McAllister arrived for the party. "Greetings, Louis, my lad," he exclaimed. "I've come with a curious stone from the hills of Scotland. Happy birthday!" Wow, thanks, said Lewis. Suddenly, the stone began to tremble and crack. Okay, that is the end of our story. So remember, you can always go back and listen to it again throughout the week if you need to, but use this story to answer the essential question. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Miss you.